Bonjour à tous. This is Isabelle Paradis, and I'm excited to be part of Humans of Telecom.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to Humans of Telecom, the Unplugged podcast. This is your host Anurag Aggarwal, Chief Growth Officer at Globe Teleservices. For those tuning in for the first time, this is a podcast where we explore the fascinating stories and perspectives of the people who power our modern communication networks. In each episode, we'll dive deep into the lives and experiences of the engineers, innovators, and entrepreneurs who are shaping the future of telecom. We all know how telecom has become a lifeline for each and every one of us. And through our conversations here, we aim at uncovering the human side of this vital and dynamic field. In our past episodes, we've heard stories of triumphs and failures, explored the latest trends and innovations, and gained new insights into the people who make it all happen. So, today I'm happy to share this space with one such trendsetter who has been the face of the telecom space for over 2 decades. Till now, she's been using a platform to focus on telecom hotshots worldwide, but today she can't escape being on the hot seat herself. So please join me in welcoming Isabelle Paradis, founder and president of HOT Telecom. Isabelle, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this journey. We'd love to hear more about you and from which part of the world are you joining this podcast today?
Hello, Anurag. Thank you for putting me on the hot seat. That's definitely a new experience for me. So
Absolutely.
I will survive it, but I also hope you will survive it. Let's see. It could be an interesting 25 minutes for both of us.
The doctor has now become the patient.
I agree, indeed. I was born in a very small town, 5 hours north of Montreal, called Chicoutimi. And Chicoutimi means the end of the deep water in Innu language. So it's a very small town where it's cold, the winter lasts a long time, but it's full of really dynamic, creative people. And in Quebec, there's a lot of politicians, there's a lot of actors, of business leaders that come from where I come from. So I'm obviously very proud of my origins.
Awesome. And let's start with a fundamental question. What makes Isabelle Isabelle?
Okay, I think that's the $1 million question, and there's obviously no simple answer to that question. But I think what makes me me is a number of crossroads in my life that created my multifaceted personality. So if we go back to where I come from Chicoutimi, when I was the first crossroad happened to me when I was 5 years old. It's a bit early for a crossroad, but it did happen when I was 5 years old, and I put my first pair of figure skates. And this is the moment I fell in love with the sport. And from that moment on, my life was taken over by figure skating until I was 18. So, as you can imagine, figure skating is an extremely demanding and difficult sport in many ways. And however, it gives you many acumens. And I think that is still in me, and it's still things that I use day to day in my life. So it's a super difficult sport because you have to be really determined. You have a lot of determination. You have to be perseverant. You have to have perseverance. You have to be disciplined. You can never give up. You fall on the ice for millions and millions of times. You have to keep getting up and up and up and up. And of course, it also demands some creativity. So these are all the things that really are that's more the creative go-getter part of my personality. I have a really quirky brain, and I think that came from my father, as he was a trailblazer in his own way. So figure skating from the age of 5 to 18 really gave me all these acumens that will are still serving me today in my life. So that was the first crossroad. Now, the second crossroad came when I was 18 years old, and I decided that I was a really good skater, but I wasn't going to be the best. So it was time for me to move on to a new adventure, and my new adventure was engineering school. So I was a very creative person, but also I really loved school. I really loved technology, STEM topics. So I decided to leave skating completely and then focus on my education. So I went to engineering school, and that gave me another big life lesson in its own way, as it was also a very difficult road. I mean, engineering school is extremely demanding. I've never worked harder in my life since I was in engineering school. And it gave me other types of acumen like problem solving, analytics, hard work, and also how to work in a group environment. And it was really pleasing my side of the brain that is more organized and likes facts and being more pragmatic. So this really was the other side of my brain. The first side was creativity and doing some more creative things in with me with my life. The other side was being much more disciplined in terms of brain work. So I did my engineering school. It was a lot of work, but a lot of fun, of course, and we learned all sorts of other things that is also very useful in our lives, which is how to drink and work at the same time and be able to last until the wee hours of the day and get up the next morning. I think in our industry that is also very important.
Absolutely.
And then what I decided to do is an MBA. Since my early teens, I always wanted to do an MBA. I didn't want to go to work right away because I thought if I go and work, I will never go back and study again. So I took a chance and I decided to put my submission on or in and asked to do an MBA right after my engineering course. And I was lucky enough to have a special pass, and they accepted me even if I hadn't worked 2 or 3 or 5 years before. So I did an MBA in finance, which is completely the reverse to an engineering degree. It's another side of the brain again. With it's still numbers, but it's very different to an engineering degree. So after that, I was quite a complete brain, creative, engineering, analytics, and numbers, and then it was time for me to start my career.
And from there, how did you enter the world of telecom?
So, like most people, I entered the world of telecom by mistake or by chance. I didn't know anything about telecom at that time. And one of my best friend was working at Teleglobe, and there was an opening, and she said, "Why don't you put your name in?" And I decided to, and I was hired. And like I fell in love with skating at 5 years old, I fell in love with telecom at 23 years old, and I never looked back. So at that time, Teleglobe was a monopoly for the Canadian telecom environment. And it was time to deregulate. It was the deregulation era. And Charles Sirois, who was the CEO at the time and also came from where I was born in Chicoutimi, he decided to hire a cohort of young people from different backgrounds: engineers, economics, politics, history, marketing, to bring into the company to ignite this transformation that was required. And it was a complete success. And the company was completely transformed and became a leading carrier within a matter of 2 years, which is why I'm so convinced about bringing young people in today and making the change that is required. And that's why I'm an advocate of that, very much so. So, so Teleglobe was a great learning ground, and I had the opportunity to travel in Asia, Europe, Africa, and do business in my early 20s all over the world, which was extremely formative for me. So then came the next crossroad. As I said, I'm defined by crossroad. The next crossroad really was leaving Teleglobe, which was a bit of a rogue decision in itself. I had a really good job. I was young. I was having a good salary. I was an interesting job, but I always wanted to be a consultant from an early age. So my boss at the time left Teleglobe, and she built her own consulting firm and asked me to join her. And actually, I did. And from there, we did a lot of consulting in Africa, Latin America, in Asia. And that brought me to do some consulting in StarHub. And I helped StarHub create its international business for a few years. And then they offered me quite a good job at the time. I was 29 years old, and they offered me the lead of the international wholesale business, which was quite an interesting position. But I actually declined it uh, because I needed some freedom in my life at the moment. At that time, I had to look after my mother, who wasn't very well in Montreal, and I had a UK boyfriend, and I needed some flexibility on where I was whenever I wanted to be in the UK, in Canada, in other parts of the world. So then my next crossroad is I decided to start my own consulting business, and that's what brought me to where I am now. For 20 years, I've been leading that business. It hasn't been an easy ride at all. People never had their own business, never been self-employed, will not understand how difficult it is. It's very fulfilling, but very challenging. And I had to work really hard, but I'm happy that I survived the ride and I am where I am today.
Awesome. So we're talking about someone who's moved all the way from figure skating to being a queen of her own world and running her own consulting empire, right?
Yes, correct. But I had a few dreams when I was young, which were really weird. I always wanted to be a ballet dancer, which I kind of was, but I chose skating. I always wanted to do an MBA, which I did. I always wanted to be a consultant, which I am, and also wanted to have my own business, which I am. So I have fulfilled some of my dreams, which is quite fortunate, to be fair.
And I think you're still young enough that you can get back to being a ballet dancer, right? We can all imagine Isabel being a ballet dancer. So the next time, folks, at your next conference, if you see a ballerina around you, there is a strong chance that could be our Isabelle Paradis.
Well, sometimes I think I'm a ballet dancer on the dance floor, but I mean, you don't know that, Anurag, but as you get older, the bit starts falling off, and I'm at that phase of my life with my bit starting to fall off.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's been a wonderful journey. I mean, I didn't know that that you have done so many different things. Ranging from Teleglobe to Star Hub, and I think at a very young age you took a very bold decision to be on your own. Typically, I've seen in our industry telecom executives do that after 1 or 2 decades of work experience. So, hats off to you to follow your passion so soon.
Yes, and I mean, it is extremely challenging. And also being a woman in telecom, I mean, I'm not a big fan of complaining about being a woman in telecom. I think it's actually has a lot of benefits.
Uh-huh.
But being a woman, having your own business, and also a global business. So for
Mhm.
people to take you seriously and to do consulting as well, which is extremely difficult. Being a consultant
Right.
is very difficult. It's very emotionally draining, but also people have to take you seriously. So I mean, I've done consulting from an early, from in my 20s in Tanzania, in Uganda, in Latin America, in Asia, of course, in Europe. So yes, I haven't chosen the easy way in my career. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And talking about passion, so I know you are a very passionate person. It's come out from all that you've said till now. So, what is something that is really something that you derive satisfaction from? What is your passion?
Well, one of my passion is traveling, of course, which is why I fit so well in the international telecom world. But my true passion really is to help people be a better version of themselves. And that's probably why I wanted to become a consultant and why I'm still a consultant. I think what gives me the most satisfaction is if I have a customer and we work together to bring them to another level, to improve, well, first of all, to make them happy. I think everything has to do, for me, with making people happy because they're successful, happy because they're enjoying themselves. It's multifaceted, but and then it's just making them better as people and as a company. When I can achieve that, well, that's what I like to do. That's where I'm at the happiest. And when I've achieved that, I'm really truly, satisfied with my work and myself as a human being.
Yep, I think you do bring out the best of each person that you interact with, and we followed so many of your hot telecom interviews. What you call what the hot shot interviews, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
they've been pretty interesting, and they bring out so many new perspectives about the people you interview. So that's amazing. So, on that note, Isabel, we move to our next section and we are going to be playing a couple of games here. So, I really look forward to having some fun here. So, the first one is that I'm going to throw a couple of words towards you, and you need to be spontaneous. As I say, be human and say the first thing that comes to your mind. So, I'll put those words across to you and let's see what you have to say. Are you ready?
Of course, I'm always ready.
Perfect. So, the first one is a simple one: telecom.
Exciting.
Okay. Innovation.
Never ending.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's something which I read on your LinkedIn, disruptor.
Isabel. I hope so, anyway.
Yeah, wait, right. I think you have disrupted some of the myths, like as I said, for example, becoming an entrepreneur so soon and finding your way up and being globally omnipresent all the time. So definitely you've disrupted a couple of myths about this industry. Let's be a little more human. So life.
Happiness. It's all about being happy and making people around you happy. I think there's no other reason to live then be happy and spread the happiness within other your circle of friends and your peers.
Absolutely. And the last one, so it's a very interesting thing when I was setting up this podcast, I was remembering you because the acronym of my podcast, the Humans of Telecom, goes as HOT, hot.
There
And
you
that
go.
incidentally is also the name of your enterprise. So, we share something common here. So the last word is hot.
Well, telecom, of course. What other answer is there to that question?
Hot Telecom. Absolutely. So, Isabel, we move to another question, or rather, another game. And I'm hoping that we can hear some interesting stuff out here. Not that everything till now was not interesting, but this is especially one of the most fun parts of our podcast. And if you've heard any of the others, I have never yet been able to win at this. So, yet again,
Oh
I
dear, pressure! You're putting pressure on me,
no, no, the
Anurag.
pressure is on me. The pressure is
Oh.
absolutely on me. So anyway, so the way this section goes is that I'm going to ask you to say three sentences. Two of them should be truths and one should be a lie. So three statements, two truths and a lie, and I'll try and guess which one is the lie. So are you ready for this?
Yes, I'm fully ready.
Perfect.
Okay. I once owned 7 cats.
Okay.
Okay. I had a 25-year long distance relationship across 2 continents.
All right.
Okay. And I'm a member of Mensa, which is an organization that group gathers people who score at the 98th percentile of IQ. So to be a member of Mensa, you have to be in the top 2% IQ in the world population.
So I guess I'll go with the third one definitely being a truth. I can totally vouch for it that Isabel must be the Mensa of Mensas. So I'm sure you must be right at the top. So I'll believe that's a truth. Given your globe-trotting life that you've just told, and I think you're a fairly emotional person as well, I'd like to believe that you must have maintained the long distance relationship over 2 continents. So I think you don't have 7 cats. So tell me.
Okay. Actually, you're wrong, but I've been a bit naughty, as you would expect. You wouldn't expect me to not be naughty. So I am afraid to say I once owned 7 cats. It's a
Okay.
long story, but we were rescuing cats in Montreal during the winter, and one of them became pregnant. So we had, it became an exponential number of cats in our house. But you'll be happy to know now I'm only having one. So that was sorted. I have, of course, have had a over 25-year long distance relationship across 2 continents. But I'm happy to say that this is still going on, but I'm not in a long distance relationship anymore. I do live with my partner now.
Awesome.
So the naughty bit is I'm not a member of Mensa, but I have been in the past. So I was a member of Mensa for a few years after my engineering school, but then I decided that I didn't need to be part of this organization. So the lie was the third one, but it was a little bit naughty.
I think I'll say it was borderline. It was the truth as well. So, uh,
Yes, I cheated a little bit.
but that's amazing. Why don't we take a minute more and talk about your long distance or your long term relationship? And it's great to see that you guys are together. But how has that experience been? You're saying 2 continents and 2 decades. So, what's that been like?
Well, now you will see through my different crossroads and stories that I always like the difficult road. If you're going to choose two roads, Isabel will choose the most difficult one of the two. So I just met this person, this amazing person, actually in telecom. So he was in telecom. I met him through the telecom industry, and we just hit it off. But sadly, we were on 2 different continents, and I couldn't move to the UK at that time, and we both had very busy traveling lives. He was traveling all over the world, and as was I. So I used to come to the UK for 2 months, and then I would go back to the Montreal for 2 months. My mother was living with me at the time, so I went going back to be with her a bit to look after her. So I was in between 2 continents for at least 20 years, 2 months at a time on top of traveling all over the world. And I mean, it kind of worked for us because he was traveling and he had a really busy life as well. And he was as probably as weird as me in that way, where, we were together. It was incredible. We were not together. It's not always easy, but this is the way it was for us. But what we found is, and I believe it's very important to be your own person. So when you're with someone, it's great, but you have to be with your own self and be happy being with your own self. And I found through that experience that I'm very happy being on my, with myself. I'm happy being on my own, and I enjoy that time. Of course, you don't want to be on your all the time. I'm a very sociable animal, as you might know, but we found that that was kind of a good balance, so that gave us time to be with ourselves, with our friends, to do our own things. And then we were together. It was incredible, of course. But now we're together, but we still keep that, we have our own times. I do my own trip, of course, when I travel all over the world, and we have our own friends, and then we come together when obviously we live together now. But we still believe in that philosophy of life, and it works really well for us.
That's amazing. And, I think today, in today's times, I think it's difficult to maintain relationships with next door people, even if, a couple is staying next to each other. So, hats off to you guys for keeping it alive for so long and so far and so near. That's amazing.
Yes, I guess when it's meant to be, when you're the person you should be with, I think it makes it easier. It's worth all the sacrifices that you have to make.
I totally agree. And Isabel, you are based near Watford in UK now, and you mentioned Montreal. So for me personally, French Canada and the UK both have been two of my favorite destinations. I incidentally also in my previous life have worked with Teleglobe, now Tata Communications. So between the two of these places, which one do you like more, or what do you think is best about each of them?
I think, of course, Montreal in Canada is my home, and my culture and people there are very much like me, crazy like me. If you ever go to Montreal and go, have the chance to go there in the summer and go out in the evening, you'll see, there's a lot of Isabelles about. And if you go to where I was born, even more, Chicoutimis, there's a lot of people that are really similar to me there. Uh, so I love Montreal for the culture and feel the feeling of home. But I've been living in the UK for many years now, and I've come to really love that country for many reasons. One of the reasons is, well, first of all, it's really beautiful, but also the people here have some grit. They are not pushovers, and they will fight. They will, when it's time to be accounted for, they will be there. And I do respect a lot that British personality, the trait, and also, of course, the sense of humor is amazing. In Quebec, we have a similar sense of a dry sense of humor, and in the UK, I definitely appreciate that a lot. So I think the people are very proud and very strong people, and of course, the country is extremely beautiful as well.
I agree, and I think the British sense of humor is something which is quite a trademark all over the world. So, and I've personally been on the receiving end, so I can totally agree. Wonderful, Isabel. So, Isabel, as I always say, all good things also sadly have to come to an end. So, we are on our final section, our signing off section. So, a couple of quick ones. So, yes, Miss Globetrotter that you are, if somebody wants to meet you or be in the hot seat or be a hot shot, which are some of the conferences that you are attending in the coming few months?
Well, of course, ITW is coming up, so I will be at ITW doing lots of hot shots on hot seats and outside and all sorts of fun locations. After that, I will be in London. There's a Submarine Networks World, no, sorry, Submarine Networks EMEA. So this is more about the submarine part of the business. I'll be there doing some panel moderation, doing a fun thing that I've never done before. We're trying, so watch this space. And then I will end the season of conferences in Dublin. I will be at CCT, which is one of my favorite conferences. It brings together lots of the CEOs in the content, cloud, and telecom space. It's by invitation only, and it brings some of the top leaders in our industry together on stage to talk about the real business. So that is definitely one of my favorite conferences coming up, and that will end the conference season until September.
Cool. So, to all the listeners, if you also want to become a hot shot, you know where to find this lady.
Yes. If you're brave enough to brave the hot seat, that is.
Yeah, that I agree. Not everybody is able to do that, especially standing in front of you. We often see Isabel is there with her trademark hot coat, her red, fiery hot
Yes.
blazer, and she's asking all the questions to the who's who of the telecom world, and it's amazing to listen to them and watch them.
But but in fairness, I do look after my victims pretty well. So I
Yeah,
have got lots of returning victims, so it must mean it's not so painful.
yeah. Now I remember. You're like our next victim is.
Yes.
How does it feel today to be a victim yourself, Isabel?
Oh, I mean, I love it. I mean, I'm not sure people will be so, I always feel that I know I look like I'm a big extrovert, but actually I'm quite shy. So I always think that I'm not sure that what I have to say is that interesting. So I hope I was able to bring some inspiration or ideas or to encourage you to be brave in your life, not always take the easy way. Sometimes the hard way is the best way. So I hope I was able to achieve that today.
Absolutely. And our signature question is what does being human mean to you? What sort of a human being would you want the world to remember you as?
So, for me, being a human being is making a positive impact on the world. If we all did something small, positives every day, what a better world we would live in. It doesn't need to be big. If you help someone, call someone, smile to someone, even, maybe that will make a difference in their day. So, being human is that making a positive impact in someone's life every day. And if someone, how I want to be remembered, I don't think I will surprise you in my answer. I want to, hopefully someone that was inspiring, fun, passionate, caring, and of course, hot.
Yes, I think the hot word is definitely now synonymous with Isabel.
Yes.
And it's so true, they say that, cherish those small moments because those, when you look back, they are the big moments in life. So, very true. I totally resonate with what you had to say. So, Isabel, any last messages to the audience before you sign off?
Yes, I think we often, we're so busy in our lives that we get entangled in, some small things and, day to day grime. But I think what is important to remember is this is not a dress rehearsal. This is the real deal. So we have to go for it. Every day, we have to live every day as if it was our last and just, you know, have fun and do the things that we love. I think that is so important. We cannot waste any days. Every day has to be lived to its full potential. That's, I think, for me, very important.
Living every day to your fullest. Carpe diem. Totally
Correct.
agree. Wonderful, Isabel. So it's been an amazing conversation, and it's so nice to have you as a victim of humans of telecom.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, Anurag. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Isabel. And as always, to all our wonderful listeners here, thanks a lot for tuning into the show. We hope this episode gave you a good glimpse of the human side of Isabel. It is tough to imagine that this globe-trotting popular face that we see in the telecom world so often has so much more to her than what meets the eye. So, as always, do stay tuned in because we shall soon be releasing yet another episode and another compelling story from the telecom space. And do follow the podcast on your preferred streaming channel. On behalf of Humans of Telecom, this is your host Anurag Aggarwal signing off for now. Take care.